Hey everyone, and welcome back. I wanted to finish off that series I originally started about my favorite products from the drugstore. I've already done bronzers, highlighters, foundations, contouring products, and blushes, and then my last one today is going to be eyeshadow palettes. Some of the ones I'm going to show you are not from the drugstore, but they are still affordable, which is why I just wanted to include them as an option. I'm going to just talk a little bit about each product, give you some swatches. I don't know if you guys can tell, but do I look a little different today? I actually applied some false eyelashes. Don't really wear false eyelashes. I wanted to practice applying them. I think they look a bit ridiculous, but yeah. I hope you guys like my roses in the background. I got them from Kyle for Valentine's Day, and I thought they looked nice on my drawer back there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna jump right into the eyeshadow palettes. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. I'm not gonna go in any particular order. I'm just gonna kind of grab whatever is in front of me. I'm gonna start off with this palette, which has been around in the drugstore for over a year now. This is the Covergirl TruNaked Nudes palette. I have one in goldens and one in roses and one in jewels, but the only one I have is the one in nudes. Just full of really nice soft neutral shades. You've got a mixture of mattes and shimmers, and the quality of these eyeshadows is actually really nice. The shadows are very soft and creamy. They blend out really nicely. I prefer the mattes over the shimmers. I think because the shadows are so soft, you don't quite get that like metallic punch. You can get this for around $12 at the drugstore. Then I have the Milani Everyday Eyes eyeshadow palettes. I have two to share with you. This one is in Smokey Essentials. It's full of really pretty blue and gray toned shades, and this one is in Earthy Elements, which is complete opposite. It's full of very warm toned eyeshadows. You get a mixture of mattes and shimmers, and once again I do prefer the mattes over the shimmers. Shimmers are a little bit rougher and a little bit chunky. At least some of the shades in both of these palettes have pretty chunky glitters, but overall they are still really good eyeshadow palettes. Around $10 to $15 at the drugstore, which is kind of pricey, but I do think they're worth it. The mattes in here are really great quality, and you do get a really pretty assortment of colors. I love creating really gunmetal, smoky eye looks with this. I would still recommend you pick up at least one of these. They have a whole bunch of different colors. Next up, I have this eyeshadow palette. This is the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone eyeshadow palette. There are no mattes, but they are really good quality metallic shades. Pigmentation is really great, very smooth and creamy. They blend out really nicely onto your eyelids. They just feel, I don't know, really soft and buttery when you swatch them. And they've got really pretty shade selections, like this duochrome one is amazing. And just a great little palette of metallic shades. I think this is $4 as well. Very affordable for good quality. This is the E.L.F. Mad for Matte eyeshadow palette. This is $10 to $12 in Canada. I feel like in anybody's drugstore makeup kit, a palette like this is necessary. You're always looking for transition, crease shades. And this palette has every neutral shade you could possibly need. I don't feel like these are the most pigmented eyeshadows, but they do have a really nice formula. They blend really nicely. It's a great palette for everyday eye looks as well. This is typically what I use. Just blend some of the shades into my crease and head out the door. You get a nice black in here that's actually really nice and pigmented. You also get a really pretty creamy shade. It's hyped up for a reason. It is really good quality. Pouring rain outside. This is the E.L.F. Prism eyeshadow palette. There are no mattes in this palette. It is all shimmers, but they are really pretty shimmer eyeshadows. They're very soft and creamy. They have a similar feel as the Comfort Zone palette. They're just not quite as intense. I wouldn't say these are like ultra metallic eyeshadows. They have more of a softer, less intense look to them, but really beautiful if you are into really bronzy, chocolatey eye looks. Pairs really nicely with the Mad for Matte. You can create a whole bunch of different neutral eye looks with this. I would recommend you do use some kind of sticky base with this. I don't think it lasts a super long time without a primer or a base underneath. I don't know if I mentioned that for the other ones, but this one for sure you need some kind of primer. And the Milani shimmery shades, I recommend you use a primer underneath the metallic shades from these palettes as well. But the rest of the palettes I've shown you so far, I never use an eyeshadow primer and they work just fine. Then I have this one from NYX. This is one of NYX's Avant Pop eyeshadow palettes, and this is in the shade Surreal My Heart. These are really pastel-y, unique shades. They don't look like they work well together, but there's something about these eyeshadows that are so amazing. This whole section over here is all matte. This little quad up here is what I wore a lot in the summertime. I just mixed all of these shades into my crease. I used the black as kind of like a smudgy eyeliner. Really, really great quality matte eyeshadows. You do get a matte gray as well and a matte like yellow. I actually haven't used that yellow, but I feel like it'd be really cool on like your lower lash line. I've used this blue in a tutorial. It's very pigmented. It lasts a really long time and it really packs a punch. This shade right here is a really pretty taupey duochrome pink shade and a really nice turquoise mermaid shade. I really want to do a look with this shade in the summer. Great quality overall. The mattes are really easy to work with. The metallics are super pigmented, very smooth and buttery. This is just a really great NYX eyeshadow palette. I don't like all of the NYX eyeshadows, but this palette in particular is really good. I would recommend this. Okay, we are actually going through this video pretty fast. I'm kind of happy about that because it is pouring so much outside right now. It's like a torrential downpour and the lighting in my room sucks once again. So this next palette is actually from a Canadian brand. This is the Joe Fresh. I think it's just called the Joe Fresh eyeshadow palette, and it is in the shade Neutrals. It's kind of boring, to be honest, when you look at it, but I actually really love this palette. In the fall, I use this so much. I really, really like the mattes. You don't actually get a lot. You get one peachy shade, a mid-tone brown, a darker brown, and a black. Almost hit pan on this one. I've used this matte shade so much. Some of the shades are a little bit drier. The shade right here is kind of dry, this like dark gunmetal shade. Bronzy coppery shade is also little bit dry. If you are someone who only really likes to wear neutrals, I feel like this is a nice palette to have. It's easy to work with, blends nicely, lasts a long time on my eyelids. Plus, I feel like the packaging is really pretty. I really like white makeup packaging, and I feel like this just looks really nice and classy. I don't know. Not important, but yeah. And then I have two eyeshadow palettes that I actually just did a video on, and these are the Beauty Treats Modern Matte eyeshadow palettes. So I'm not going to talk much about them. You get a really cool assortment of colorful shades and then a really easy, simple neutral palette. I love this one a lot. I use this every single day. The shadows are really soft and easy to work with. They blend out really, really nicely. They're not the most pigmented, but I don't mind that. I use this just when I'm getting ready for work and stuff, and I don't like having to blend out really pigmented shades into my crease. It just takes more time. I really like this. I think it's good quality, and it's like $6 or so. I don't know what the price is, but it's really, really cheap. I would highly recommend these, and I will link the video that I recently did reviewing these palettes. These are from Makeup Revolution. Ones I wanted to share with you are the Makeup Revolution Redemption Iconic 1. All shimmers except for two matte shades, which are right here, these like neutral brown. I wish there were more mattes in this palette because I usually prefer mattes over shimmers, but the shimmer shades in here are really nice, super pigmented and creamy, especially these two that I've just swatched, the bronze and the gold. And the mattes are nice as well. They're very soft, they blend really nicely, and they're easy to work with. If you're into these kind of shades, this is probably one of the better quality, larger eyeshadow palettes from the drugstore. And then the other one from Makeup Revolution is my favorite eyeshadow palette from the drugstore ever, I think. This is the Neutrals versus Neutrals eyeshadow palette. Look at this palette. I love this palette so much. Not only do I love the color selection, but the quality on these shadows is so good. It's even better than the Redemption palette. At least in my opinion, I feel like this palette is better quality. Every single shade in here is very pigmented, smooth, creamy, and blendable. It really is an effortless palette. Definitely the best quality eyeshadow palette from the drugstore that I've found. This top row is very neutral. It kind of reminds me of the Naked 3 eyeshadow palette, but then it throws in that row. I can't rave more about this palette. It's just really good. If you can find it and you're into these type of colors, or even if you're not into these type of colors, I would still recommend it. It is amazing. Okay, we are down to my last eyeshadow palettes, and these actually aren't from the drugstore. They are from the brand Morphe brushes. I know Morphe is a really controversial makeup brand. A lot of people don't like it because of all like the YouTube hype about it, but I feel like if you just go in with a completely unbiased opinion, I know they get a lot of hate on the opposite end of the spectrum. They get way too much hype, but I actually think for the price that the Morphe palettes aren't that bad. These palettes have 35 eyeshadows in them, and they're like $22. This is the 35 OM palette. I actually spilt my RCMA no color powder all over this palette, so if you see white specks, these are all completely matte eyeshadows. I'm actually wearing this one on my eyes today. Also have the 35F palette, also have the 35K, but I don't know, I didn't bring it out today, so I think the 35F is my favorite one. This one is full of shimmery shades. They're very, very creamy. They almost feel like a cream eyeshadow when you swatch them. You get such a pretty selection of colors. You get one row of mattes. They're not the greatest matte eyeshadows. They do have a lot of fallout, but the shimmery shades in here are amazing. I will say that the Morphe palettes are kind of hit and miss within the palettes. Like, not all of the shades in here are like amazing, and not all of the shades in the 35OM are like the same consistency, so it kind of varies within the palette, but you are getting 35 shades and there are more hits than misses, and everything is workable. Like, you can work with all of the shades in here. You just have to maybe put a little bit more effort into getting pigment out of some of the shades. But I do think the Morphe palettes are really great options. I don't think they're necessarily worth either all the hype or all the hate. They're just decent eyeshadow palettes, and they are affordable, so I like them. I don't know. They're not for everyone, I guess, but I do like the palettes that I have from Morphe, so I wanted to include them anyway. And those are all my top 10 eyeshadow palettes from the drugstore. I know that drugstores don't actually carry a lot of eyeshadow palettes, but these ones that I've shared with you today I think are really, really great. That concludes my favorite products from the drugstore series. I'll link every video that I did in this series in the description bar below. I kind of have a new drugstore series that I want to do, which is mostly just reviews, not like necessarily my favorite products in each category, but just reviews. So I was gonna do like setting sprays and drugstore sponges. So I think that's gonna be in the works soon. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!